Read the disclaimer stuff on the screen to understand the channel and stuff with the disclaimer. And
we interrupt this disclaimer to bring you another disclaimer. I really hope you appreciate the self-control it's taking me not to make a tired, dated Yo Dog reference. Cryptomnesia, noun. Merriam-Webster defines this word as the appearance in consciousness of memory images which are not recognized as such, but which appear as original creations. Essentially a fancy way of saying when you think you have an original idea, but it's actually a distant memory of something you saw somewhere else and have since forgotten you saw somewhere else. And now, as it pops into your head, you think it's an original idea. I bring this up because I wrote and recorded the script for this video about 8 months ago, and I just never got around to editing it. Since then, I've had the gnawing suspicion that the entire premise is perhaps something I saw somewhere else once upon a time. I looked around and I couldn't find anything, but on the off chance that this whole video is an unintentional ripoff, I sincerely apologize. Please no bully.
I'd like to set the foundation for this video with, if you will indulge me, a quote from the late, great Chris Cornell. Or at least that's what I'd like to do. Unfortunately, I cannot find this quote anywhere. The reason being that it is actually a secondhand quote from one of Cornell's Audioslave bandmates. The band member was speaking of a conversation he'd had with Chris about the meanings of some of his songs. Now, I can recall exactly where I saw this footage. It was on a DVD released very near the beginning of the formation of the band. This DVD, to be exact. I considered buying a secondhand copy of it, as I lost mine ages ago or probably loaned it to a friend, but I am what the kids refer to as broke AF. Now, I realize that this level of research goes against my general philosophy that I hold for this channel. I just really didn't want to misquote someone I respect so much. Either way, the words made such an impact on me that they shaped the way I listen to music to this very day. And so, I'd like to set the foundation for this video with, if you will indulge me, a paraphrased quote that either came from the late great Chris Cornell or that I pulled out of my ass 20 years ago and have held on to ever since. He stated that he doesn't worry too much about making the meanings of his songs crystal clear because the thoughts, feelings, images, and emotions that a song creates in the listener are what matter. Those meanings are yours. You own that. It's those last 3 words that stick with me the most. You own that. Which is why I'm very certain that I didn't imagine the quote. Though feel free to purchase a copy of the DVD and scour it in order to prove me wrong. Either way, this quote that may not be a quote has always resonated with me. I think most of us have had an experience at least once in our lives where we fall in love with a song because it makes us think about a particular experience in our lives, or a feeling that we hold dear, or an idea that we strongly believe in, only to later find out through either a band interview or a fellow fan that the meaning of the song couldn't be further from what we thought. In that moment, a lot of people will let go of that meaning that they gleaned from that song. I do not, because I own it. And nobody can ever take that away from me by saying, actually, the song is about the economic plight of the South American dung beetle. All that said, it should come as no surprise that I rarely ever look up the meanings for songs, neither from official interviews or opinions of others. And the subject of this video is no exception. It is also worth pointing out before we begin that I'll be largely talking about the music video for this song rather than the song itself. Music videos can often differ in story and meaning from the one told in the song itself. And I've even seen music videos with plot credits for the director of the video in either the video itself or in the description. This very song being no exception. And although the credits only mention a director, other songs by this band, in particular Moonlight Kissed, credit a writer for the video as well. So between my 20-year recollection of a quote that might not be a quote, and the multiple layers of a song, songwriter, and music video director, there is a lot up for interpretation. This can be said about most songs, whether they have a music video or not. So why have I chosen this one to make this video about? Well, that's because it has a Shrek-tastic amount of layers that have provoked thoughts and feelings in me over the years, one particular observation coming nearly a decade after I first saw the video. Now, I'm going to need you to do a little bit of legwork before we continue. Although I'm completely certain that I could use the footage from the music video in this analysis, I really do not have the energy or time to deal with the automatic copyright claim that will likely appear upon upload, even if I would most definitely be able to get the claim dropped. Also, I'm editing these videos on a potato that stutters while even watching YouTube videos, so still images from the video will serve me much better.
Fun fact: enough time has passed since I recorded this script that not only did I get a new laptop, it broke on me literally 2 days after the warranty was up, and I have since saved up and bought a gaming rig. However, in that time, though I haven't done any actual work on this channel, I've written over a dozen different scripts for a wide range of video topics. And for the time being, I kinda want to maintain this sort of slideshow presentation style. I know that may sound lazy on my part, but if I'm being honest, it would actually be easier to just overlay some video clips pertaining to the topic at hand, rather than the hours-long hunts that I have to go on to find royalty-free images of at least passable quality. If I do decide to continue with this editing style, I do plan on signing up for one of those websites such as Shutterstock that gives you access to a paywalled library of better quality images. Thank you for your time. Now let's get back to whatever the fuck that idiot was going on about when he recorded this nearly a year ago. Dear God, the file says it was recorded at 4 a.m. What the fuck was I smoking?
All that out of the way, allow me to introduce you to Cradled in Love by the Finnish rock band Poets of the Fall. I discovered this band years ago through their work on the game Alan Wake and have been a fan ever since. At this point, I'm going to ask you to go and watch the music video in question. You can search it easily enough, but I will also link it in the description. I will be going over the events of the video with plenty of still images, but I really do feel like experiencing the video as well as the angelic voice of the singer Marco Seresto firsthand will enhance the rest of the tinfoil hat conspiracy shit that encompasses the rest of this video. Pause a moment for viewer to... I wasn't supposed to read that. I wrote this fucking script myself like 3 days ago. I'm a fucking idiot. Anyway, now that you're back, let's do a quick play-by-play of the events of the music video, and then we'll dive into my analysis. The video opens with shots of a creaky old house, some water dripping from a leaky ceiling into a basin, and a guy curled up in a small nook, seemingly asleep. The front door opens, and in walks a woman. After a few steps inside, the door slams shut behind her. As she runs to attempt opening it, the man awakens. He begins singing from various positions within the nook, sitting in an empty space, and staring at a wall. That last one may look a little weird, but Marco kinda has a wall fetish. This isn't the only video where he has serenaded a wall. This has, however, caused friction with the band's drummer Jari, who took his jealous frustrations out on this poor innocent wall. Man, imagine getting cucked by a wall. Anyway, the woman begins to wander through the house, any initial shock at the door closing replaced by a calm, curious demeanor. She enters a dining area and flips through some old books sitting on a shelf before then moving on down some hallways. The house is cold and you can see her breath. She eventually makes her way into a bedroom and sits down on the bed. Spotting a necklace on the bedside table, she picks it up to examine it and then decides to wear it. She lays down on the bed and curls up on her side. Shortly after which, as Marco sings at her bedside, the basin begins rapidly filling with both water and a ray of light. The front door creaks open. Hearing this, the woman gets up and runs down the hall. I would be remiss if I didn't point out a small continuity error at this point. She's not wearing the necklace as she runs, but has it back on during the next shot. That's no biggie. She finds herself standing on one side of the basin, which at this point is inundated with isolated rainfall bathed in light. And for the first time since the video started, she makes eye contact with Marco, who stands on the other side. Whether she truly sees him or not is unclear. Marco ends the final note of his haunting performance back in that little nook, and with his voice spent, slumps back against the wall, eyes closed. The rainfall fades just as the woman walks through it, and, taking one final look back into the house, she closes the door. There is a lot to unpack here, and multiple possible interpretations of the song and the video. We'll start with the most obvious one, and the one that is most likely the canon interpretation. Marco is a ghost, and that woman is his widow, or at the very least, a former lover. As she enters the house, the ghost awakens. He locks the door and traps her inside, not out of malice, but fear of being separated from her again. The woman is not fearful of this house because she likely used to live here with him, though it's been years and the house has fallen into disrepair, hence the leaky ceiling and peeling walls. The woman looks rather young, so you may say that the amount of time needed for the house to be in this state couldn't have passed, but there's plenty of possible explanations. The damage could be abstracted and exaggerated for dramatic effect, or it could have been like this when they were together and they had planned on fixing the place up after buying it. At this point, I'd like to ask you to pause and go listen to another Poet's song called Skin, which is from the same album as this one. I strongly believe that these songs are related. To quote a small bit from that song, "This house is full of stories we both told, these rooms their very stage where they'd unfold. These walls they whisper secrets and memories thereof, but this door no longer leads us to that love." I mentioned earlier that it is cold and you can see the woman's breath. Given what she's wearing, it's highly unlikely that it's also cold outside, and the visible breath only intensifies as the ghost follows her throughout the house. The necklace that she picks up by the bed is likely a gift that she had given him while they were together. A line in the song confirms this. "I kept the love you gave me alive, now I carry it with me. I know it's just a teardrop from Mother Earth, but in it I can hear a dolphin sing." A teardrop from Mother Earth is a quite poetic way of describing a gemstone. The woman shows no signs that she can see or hear Marco, but she does seem to be able to feel his presence. As she lays down on the bed, there is one sign where the interpretation could splinter a bit. The bed is a bit small for two people. It could be that he owned the house, and though she visited and maybe even intended to move in at some point, didn't live there herself. This would explain why she acts simultaneously familiar with the building but also curious about parts of it, such as the books on the table. Though it could just as easily be that a bigger bed was in another bedroom that they shared. The ghost, seeing his love laying there all alone, is forced to accept that keeping her here against her will is wrong. So he opens the door and tells her not to cry for him, but to instead cry tears of joy because she is alive and cradled in love. His love. The love she gave him. The necklace. She leaves and, after bidding a final farewell to him, shuts the door. His regrets being replaced with a joy at getting a goodbye that perhaps they were robbed of in life, he returns to his place in the nook, perhaps ready to move on, or perhaps resigning himself to an eternal slumber. Between the cold breath, the multiple times he stands near her without a reaction, and the suddenly disappearing leak in the roof, this is clearly a ghost story with a bittersweet ending. I thought so the first time I saw it, and many times after. Eventually, however, I started looking at it differently. I started wondering how I could interpret this video if I looked at everything in it metaphorically rather than literally. And if you're hoping that this option makes the bittersweet ending a brighter one, well, I can't say for sure. But let me walk you through it. The events of this video, including the house itself and the objects found within, are all a metaphor. This isn't a tragic love song sung from the point of view of a ghost. Cradled in Love is a breakup song. A man sits alone with his thoughts, practically asleep, dead inside. And then this woman walks into his world, and for the first time in his life, he feels alive. The door shutting behind her represents her entering a relationship with him, a man who is haunted, hurt, and alone. She has her reservations about dating him, but decides to give it a go anyway. As she explores the house, she's getting to know him. There's decay everywhere, but also signs of beauty. She learns about who he is behind that broken exterior, and at the core, she finds something beautiful. This is what the necklace represents, his heart. Taking the necklace in her hands as she takes his heart in her hands, the love she gives to him. She sits examining this necklace, marveling at its unique beauty. That's how she feels about him. Flawed as he is unique and beautiful. And yet, tragically, she has realized something about him. She loves him. She truly does. But she's not in love with him. But she knows he's alone, damaged. She knows how much good and love there is inside him. And so she decides to stay. This man, as flawed as he is not cruel. He talked her into dating him, but when he realizes that her heart is not fully in it, it's him that ends the relationship. And just as she walked into his life, he steps aside as she walks back out, returning him to that loneliness. Knowing that he may never again meet someone who makes him feel so alive, he crawls back into that nook and returns to his slumber, knowing full well that he may never again be awakened by love. I will be the first to admit that this is an imperfect interpretation of this video. After all, if it isn't a ghost story, why is he singing to her and reminding her that she's alive? And this is where I mentioned earlier that one aspect of the video only occurred to me recently. In fact, after years of looking at this song in this way, as a breakup song rather than a ghost story, it was this final puzzle piece that prompted me to write about it and eventually make this video. So why is he reminding her that she's alive if he himself is not a ghost? He's not. In fact, he's not singing to her at all, at least not during the chorus. We joked about this earlier, but several parts of the video show him singing to a wall. And while this could easily be seen as just an artistic choice, what if it's not? What if it's deliberate? After all, what is it that you can see on that wall, cast upon the decayed, peeling plaster? Marco's shadow. He's singing to himself. Losing the woman he loved, the first woman to make him feel alive, even though it was his choice to end it, has left him feeling like a shadow of his former self. And it is to that shadow that he is speaking, telling it, instead of crying for the love that he has lost, he should cry tears of joy, because even though he may feel dead inside, he is alive, and he is cradled in love, the love of his friends, his family, and even the woman who, though they were not destined to remain lovers, will surely still be good friends. My interpretation of this song and its accompanying music video is far from perfect, and most likely not what was intended. But these are the thoughts and feelings that Cradled in Love has created in me. They are mine, and I own that. And now that that leaky roof has been repaired, and the basin collecting all those tears is no longer needed, this shower thought can come to a close. Thank you for watching.